Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Vandy, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back fam. Today's video is going to be a highly requested one. I've received DMs, emails, comments requesting this video, so let's jump right into it. So the question of the day is, how do you braid over locks? I'm not really sure why I keep getting this question, but I'm assuming that a lot of you beauties out there have locked up and are looking for a little change in your life. So what I have here is my girl Sheila, and I have installed a faux lock on her head. I am going with the worst case scenario situation in here, so I have installed a boho lock or a genie lock or distress lock, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're working with. And you guys know I normally use blonde hair so that I can demonstrate the differences in the rotations. However, I thought I'd change it up a little bit today and do a little bit of purple. Now, I already have a video on 8 different ways to start a box braid. So if you haven't checked that out, I will link that in the description card above. It's very helpful in understanding what method works best for you. But the only difference in installing braids over locks is the lock you cannot split. You cannot change it. That lock has to act as one of the strands of the braid. So taking this into consideration, you can very well make this easy on yourself and have the lock act as a third strand. So you'll simply just use the synthetic hair as the other 2 strands, wrap it around the root, then continue to braid. However, as you can see, you're going to still see the lock. Unless, of course, you're using hair that is the same color as the lock. And it also depends on how smooth it is, because the lumpier and bumpier and larger the lock is, the more inconsistencies you're going to have within the braid. Now, I know some of you are very fond of splitting the synthetic hair into thirds. However, remember, when you do this, you're creating 3 equal strands of hair. This methodology clearly won't work because you got to still find a way to hide that lock hair. 2 of the strands will be equal, but one of the strands will be super big and lumpy, and you can't split it off to even it up. What I'm going to show you now, guys, is my way, the way that works for me to get it as aesthetically pleasing as possible, because again, you cannot change the lock. So I want you guys to watch very carefully. I'm going to do this slowly, and then I'm going to go back and rewind it in slow motion so that you can really see what I'm doing. But what I did here was I placed the hair on top of the lock, and I used the lock as my third strand. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to split one side of the hair and pull that lock to the left, and I'm going to use that top split side of the hair to cover the lock before I loop around and do a rotation. This method is also what you use for tucking, which I already have a video on. You're basically just covering the lock with the synthetic hair so that you can have a uniform braid. I want you guys to also note that I'm using more than enough hair to cover the strands of the lock. So when you're pulling out, like when you're picking out the piece of hair that you want to use, you want to make sure it's the same thickness as the lock that you're getting ready to cover. You can also see as I move down the braid, I am borrowing from different sections to maintain the consistency in the strands. Remember to always borrow under your rotation, never over the rotation. So as you can see, as I'm making progress here, I've got something that looks like a fairly decent braid. But again, remember guys, I'm using worst case scenario, and that is a very thick lock with a lot of texture in it. A lot of people who are getting their braids over their locks aren't usually this bad. So you can imagine if you're practicing with the worst case scenario, you'll fly right through it in the easiest case scenario. All right, so here's one more look at how I started this off. so you can see slow motion what I'm doing as far as hand placements go and which direction the rotation needs to go. All right, so now that we've got the technique down, let's see what this is gonna look like with hair that closely matches the color of the lock. I'm gonna do this in real time so that you can get another look at how I'm doing this technique. So that's a wrap, you guys. As you can see, I had that one little pesky lump I couldn't get out. But as you can see, it can be a very tedious process because it involves a whole lot of tucking and making sure that you get everything covered up in there, and also maintaining your grip and security. So it's definitely something that you got to practice until you feel comfortable with it. If you don't know how to install a lock on the mannequin head, you can always use a crochet lock, or you can just do a very large box braid. Either will work just fine for practicing. For those of you who are anticipating a faux lock tutorial, I actually have a very detailed one coming up very soon. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss that upload. And in the meantime, head over to Instagram and check out some of these amazing braiders who are actually out here doing this braids over lock look. They are really slaying the game and changing lives in these streets. So if you're on the gram, make sure you head over there and show these amazing stylists some love and support. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you found this video helpful, make sure you thumbs it up, share it with your friends and family, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.